Coffey Knits podcast. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook and Etsy as Pot of Coffey Knits. And welcome. So today, I've been waiting to do a podcast for a little while because I've been very, very busy. And so today we're going to talk about some of the yarns that I've dyed, some of the things in my shop and my works in progress. And I do have quite a few finished objects right now, which I'm really excited about. So I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about my finished objects. Okay, so I last time was working on my summer rain shawl, and I finally got that finished. It actually technically still needs blocked because I kind of put it away after it was done, but I love how it turned out. I love the green yarn was just a Knit Picks yarn that I had gotten. But it turned out really nice. It's super soft and squishy. I love the raindrop pattern in there. Now, if you look super close, I messed up a row down here. But if you're not a knitter, you don't know that. And by the time I was to that part and I realized that I had messed up my count, I was not going to go back and fix it. So this is my imperfectly perfect shawl. So that one's done. Then I was also working on a hat for my husband because he had picked out some yarn, some naturally dyed, or not naturally dyed, just natural alpaca wool, 100%, an Aran weight. And so we found the regular guy's beanie hat pattern for free on Ravelry. And so I finished his hat for him, and it's so soft. If you've never felt 100% alpaca wool, then you have not felt something this soft before. My kids keep taking out the caked yarn, and they say they just want to sleep with it. They want a pillow made out of alpaca wool, so I have to find something for that. But my kids loved this one so much that they all requested a hat like this. So the boys are all going to get a hat this same color, exactly like their dad's. And then my daughter, she didn't want such a dark color, but she still wanted the 100% natural colored alpaca wool. So this is what she picked out, the color. So this one is going to be a hat for her, and then these ones are all for the boys in the family. So maybe I'll have to make one of these for myself too, so that the girls can match and the boys can match. I have 3 sons, so 3 sons and their dad is all going to have this hat, and then my daughter and I can have this hat. So those are 2 things that I've completed. And then I'm doing a mission project for the women's mission group, the Lutheran Women's Missionary League, that I'm a part of, that does amazing mission work around the world. They collect what's called mites, which is your change. Basically, you put your change in a box, and when you have change, your pennies, your dimes, whatever, and you collect that, and you end up using that for your donation money. And they collect nationally and internationally, and they end up raising over $1 million every single year that then they turn around and put back into mission work all around the world. And it's really fun to be a part of that. Well, through our local Lutheran Women's Missionary League, LWML, some of the pastors around here, they do, when they go to pray with parents who have lost a child through a miscarriage or a stillbirth, when the pastors go pray with them, they like to give them a prayer memory blanket square. And so I just made 4 of them, and I'm working on number 5 right now. But I'm actually really proud of these. I think it's really, I can't imagine losing my baby, and so I think it's really important for people to have something that they can put in their baby box, even if they didn't get to bring their baby home. And I'm actually really proud of these because I wrote my own first pattern. It's a simple pattern, but I still wrote my own first pattern, so that's kind of exciting. So this was the first one, and I'm still donating this one, but this was the first one, but as you can see, I had to alter my count because the cross is not centered in it. So I wanted it to be higher. Plus, I wasn't even thinking, I was just kind of knitting along out of my brain, and I didn't add enough of an edge, a garter stitch edge, so that it didn't roll so much. So this one is a little rolly. This was the very first one, and I didn't sit down and write anything out with this one. I just kind of cast on 40 stitches, and I was like, all right, let's just go and see what happens. And so it has a cross in the center, and it's really soft. It's a 12 by 12 square. So that's one of them. This is one of them that I then corrected so that the cross is equally centered all the way around, and it doesn't roll so much because I added a thicker border. And I actually really love the way that the pinks turned out on this one. It really makes the cross stand out. And then this one is the third one. And then I also made a gold one, and one of my works in progress is one in this color. So it's a finished product, finished objects, but it's also works in progress. So I'm doing the last one right now, and I'm doing the last one actually in some really old yarn, acrylic nylon yarn that it's Karen Dazzle Air that my mom gave to me from my grandma's house before they sold it, and it was torn down a couple years ago. So I don't really know how old this yarn is. It doesn't have any kind of date or anything on it, but I'm guessing it's pretty old. So, but I have it in my stash, and so I thought I would use some of that because it's got some fun colors. Yeah, but those are the things I've currently completed, which is a lot, I guess, in a month. I haven't had a lot of time to sit down and knit some of my bigger projects, but to finish my shawl, my husband's hat, and to finish 5 of these, or on the 5th one, trying to get some stuff done. I mean, it was an easy knit, so these ones were ones I could take to my son's baseball game and stuff and knit on them. So those are the things I have done. I still have quite a few works in progress I'm working on though, and I'm kind of itching to cast on a few more items. So let's talk about works in progress. Progress is to finish that memory 12 by 12 square. Another work in progress is, like I said, I talked about but I didn't show you, is working on some more hats, 3 more hats in this color for my sons, and then the same hat for my daughter in this color, which these are both 100% alpaca yarn in its natural colors, but I just got them off of Knit Picks, and it's just under the Simply Alpaca, and they're both Aran weight, 246 yards, 100 grams, 100% super fine alpaca. So that's what I got for these hat projects from my family. So I'm working on this, which is a really easy 2x2 rib, and then stockinette up, and then a really easy decrease, every other row decrease. So I mean, it's something I don't need a pattern for. I can just take it with me and knit. I am keeping this in this really fantastic, lovely bag, which I don't think I showed last time, but maybe I did. I don't remember. I love this bag. There's pockets in the front, which actually is housing currently some sunscreen because I keep taking this to my son's baseball games, and you can tell I'm fair complected. My children are too most of the time, so we have to wear sunscreen. But I love this bag. It is a great size. It's got awesome lining. It's the top, I will fold down the top to help it stand up, but it will stand up. It's got pockets in the front, but it also then is a drawstring. And so it's really easy to carry around with me and knit when I go. And this bag I got from This Handmade Life. She does some awesome patterns. She has a whole bunch of sock patterns, and she makes these bags in her shop on Etsy. And I love following her because she's just, all of her pictures on Instagram are dreamy and gorgeous, and it seems as though she loves taking pictures of nature like I do, and I feel like she and I have a lot of the same tastes. So if you want to follow her on Instagram, it's This Handmade Life, and she has some great stuff too. So I was really pleased. The bag came really quickly after I ordered it off her Etsy shop, and I was really, really pleased with this bag. It's probably currently my favorite bag to take with me because it's small enough that it's not bulky, but it's big enough to fit a couple small projects in, and the pockets are really nice because I can put my phone and my keys in there, so I don't have to like bring my purse with me to the baseball game or to the pool with the kids or anything like that. So it's a really, really good bag. I like that bag. My On the Spice Market shawl has been resting since the last podcast, but it's in this little bag, which this bag I also love. It's smaller than, I mean, it's quite a bit smaller than this one, but it's good for little things like these little skeins of yarn that I have with my On the Spice Market shawl. Fit in here perfectly when I'm working on one little one. But this bag is by Knitting Nelly, which I love the quilting that she does on her bags, and it's really cute. This On the Spice Market shawl by Melanie Berg. Like I said in my last podcast, I love the colors. It's perfect colors for me. I can't wait to wear it in the fall. But I've been working on those other small projects, and I've been, I think I told you last time that I messed up this by like 100 stitches and was totally off for a while. And so after I had to rip it all back, I kind of got frustrated and I just put it aside. So it's been resting for about a month, along with my other shawl project, which has been resting for about a month, which let me show you, is my Washed Out shawl by Coffey. And I can't wait to wear this because it's great and big and really lightweight and just kind of fabulous. But again, this one's been resting for a couple months just because I had a whole bunch of things come up and just hadn't had time to knit on certain things, and I really wanted to finish my summer rain shawl and some of these other projects that I had going. So I think that the next one I'm going to work on for a while is this one again, because it's got a really fun lace pattern. But I think I showed you guys before. These are yarns by the Woolen Homestead, who I love her yarns. The whole shawl is going to be done in her yarn. 3 different colorways of theirs. So this is where I've started. I think this is the Blueberry Crumb Cake colorway that I've started on. And then the next color will be Stardust. And then the last color, the lighter one that will be even more of the lace, is Solstice Twilight, which is the like white color. And this bag that I keep this in is actually a woven bag that my mom made many, many years ago, and she stitched it closed and added some traditional 1970s wooden dowel rods on there. But I absolutely love this bag. It's like my perfect carpet bag, and I love it. I actually kind of feel a little like Mary Poppins with this bag because it kind of reminds me, like, it's really big inside. It kind of stretches out, and it just kind of reminds me of something that Mary Poppins might carry around. So I'm working on that one. Let's see what else. I have kind of a lot of projects going right now, and I'm about to cast on the rest of those hats. The next work in progress that I'm still working on, and I haven't picked up again, so just repeating myself, is my Everyday Hermione sock, or Hermione's Everyday sock, I mean. And I'm still in the same spot. Haven't done the heel. I kind of just put it off, and I need to get back to it because I want to work on it. This one's kept in a bag I made. The yarn is Life is the Bubbles by the Wool and Homestead. I will work on it again, and I know that the heel is super easy. It's just one of those things you have in your head, and you are like, oh, well, I'll just do that later, and then you start working on other stuff, and you kind of forget about it. So that's kind of where I'm at with that sock, and I will get back to it. And I know once I do the heel, I'm gonna love the other sock's gonna go really fast because I'm gonna be like, oh, well, that was so easy. What was I waiting for? And then in this, excuse me, other bag that I made is where I'm keeping my Cozy Memories blanket, which I have not added on to yet, but I have a whole lot of pieces of yarn in here that I need to add on there. I just have not taken the time again. You know, some are supposed to be relaxing and stuff, but really it's so busy for me around my house because I have 4 kids and they're involved in stuff. Baseball takes up half of our lives, and then they want to go swimming, and we do a lot of vacations in the summertime, and we try to take our summers to work on our house and our garden and, you know, get stuff accomplished. And so there's just not a ton of time for sitting down and knitting. Plus I've been doing a lot of reading lately because I'm kind of doing a reading competition with my kids this summer, and so I'm a book person. I can't do audiobooks very well. I need to learn how, because then I could knit and read at the same time, but I love the feel of holding a physical book, so when I read I really like to have a book in my hands, but that's just me. So those are all my works in progress right now, and I'm hoping to finish that sock here in the next couple weeks and finish up these hats, which take no time for the rest of my family, and then I can focus on my shawls, and I'm going to cast on sweaters and things like that for the winter and start working on some of those projects. So yeah, that's it for works in progress. So let's talk about some of the yarn that I've dyed. I showed you that I had dyed this skein of yarn with dandelions. It is like the perfect green. I love this color. And so then before all the dandelions kind of died off, I sent my kids out to forage before my husband was going to mow them all down to get all the rest of the dandelions. And I did another pot with two skeins of yarn in it, and then I went back and did one more skein. And I was actually surprised because this next pot I did with, the first pot I did with just the flower heads, and the next pot I did with the flower heads and the leaves and stems, and it actually came out lighter. It's really hard to tell the color on this, but it's really a pretty, almost like a sage green. The first one was kind of like an olive green. These two came out like a sage green color, and these are 2 sport weights yarns. And then, so then I was like, well, there's still some green in there. There's still some dye in there, so I want to exhaust this dye bath. And so I did just one skein of yarn, which it looks kind of white here in this light, but it's actually just a really, really light color of this sage green. So these together are really pretty. And that's one of the things that I love about natural dye. So these are all sport weight, and this is the DK natural spun from the local Does and Divas dairy here around town. But this is one of the things that I love about natural dye is so much of the time, there's so many variables that go into natural dye that even if I kept a extremely detailed notebook of exact amounts of every little thing and tested the pH of my water and everything like that, you're still going to get variations in your dyes because it doesn't always have to do with what I can control in my kitchen. It also has to do with, well, maybe that plant had a different color to it or different things in it naturally. So the plants themselves play a big part in the variables of natural dye. And that's one of the things I love about it, is because it's kind of unpredictable. And it seems like no matter how many times I do the same dyes the same exact way, each time it comes out a little bit different. And so it's kind of, every time I do it, it's kind of like I'm doing an experiment all over again, even if I kept extremely detailed records, which I can honestly say I really don't, because I kind of like being a small based, single batch, hand dyed yarn provider that I sell, because I feel like people get more of one of a kind yarn. So when I do dye my yarn, I usually do a minimum of 2 hanks at a time, unless like this one I knew I did 1 because I thought it would go with these ones really well for a shawl or a sweater or something. This one I did 1 because I wanted to see how dark I could completely get it. So this would be a great one for like a hat or, you know, some thicker color work, things like that. But generally speaking, I try to do, if I'm doing a big batch of dye, I try to do a minimum of 2 hanks of yarn. Sometimes 3, just because at least 3 is closer to a sweater quantity in case somebody wanted it, but a minimum of 2. That way I can say they're in the same dye lot, and if people want more than one color that they really like, then I have a couple of those. But I kind of like that my yarn is small based, and it's kind of one of a kind. So when you purchase natural dyed yarn from me, you can honestly say that nobody probably has the exact same yarn that you bought, which is kind of cool to me. So those were all dandelion ones. Now the next experiment I've done, and I have seen, was with the red onion skins. I've done yellow onion skins before, which mine became a really pretty yellow color. Now I have seen other people dye with red onion skins before, and it turns out almost kind of like this burgundy color. I have no idea how they get that, because I followed the directions in my dye book that talked about mordanting and how, like, what you needed to do in order to get more of that reddish color, and I did not get anything anywhere near that. I don't know if it has to do with that I use a stainless steel pot. I want to purchase an aluminum pot so that I can test some of these things and make a batch at the same time with the same harvested stuff in an aluminum pot and a stainless steel pot, dye the exact same type of yarn in each one, and see if that changes the colors, because I think that would be a cool experiment. But I also wanted to experiment with some of the dye processes, because with natural dyes it's a little harder to get variegation in your yarn than it is with, you know, the acid dyes where you can squirt different colors on there. It's a little more difficult, but I thought it would be fun. So this was the first batch of dye I got, and I did it as a dip dye. So you have some whites, and then you have almost like this mustard gold color, which I actually really loved how this turned out. So this would be fun to see how it's knitted up. And I have 2 of those. So that's the first dye I did. I dipped 3/4 of it in the dye pot and left the other 1/4 out. And then I just let it dye up. So then I was like, well, there's still a ton of dye in here. So I put in another skein of yarn, 1 big skein. That's sport weight, by the way. And then this is a sport weight too. So I did another skein. Now this one came out totally different colors. See the difference in that? This one's more like an orangey gold color versus the mustard gold. So then I was like, well, there is still more dye in this dye pot. So I'm gonna put in 2 more skeins of yarn and see what comes out. And these 2 skeins of yarn came out bright yellow. So you can see from this dye bath, 3 different dyes in one dye bath, 3 different dips, and they came out totally different. And this is the colors that I got with my red onion skins. I got nowhere near pinks or reds, not even a little bit. So all of these will be in my shop too when I do my shop update here in the next week or so. I don't have an exact date, but I'm thinking in about a week. I'll be out of town this weekend with my daughter, so it's probably not going to happen anytime before that because I have to get ready to go out of town. So a couple of the things that I just recently got is I got my new Taproot, which I've told you guys about before. I love my Taproot magazine. It's the magazine for makers, doers, and dreamers, it says. And this one is issue 27 Bloom, and has in there some flower preserves, vinegar shrubs, embroidery, rug hooking, some knit socks, patterns, and all sorts of stuff. The new one is. And then a bit ago, I don't even remember when, but I got my new Making number 5 magazine, and this has some awesome patterns in here, first of all, but I was super excited when I opened it up, and the first things it talks about is natural color, and it talks about different dyes. This one is for a pattern of this hat, all with natural colors, dyed naturally, yarns dyed naturally. And then it tells you some of the different things it's dyed with. Look at those vibrant, awesome colors. This is what I love about natural dye. I love this. And so I was very excited. This was dyed with marigolds, natural printed scarves. This quilt, that fabric was all dyed naturally, the blocks were. So I was super excited to get this magazine and read more about natural dyes, things that I love. Speaking of marigolds, in my garden, let's talk about the garden a little bit. I now have a ton of marigold plants about to pop up. They're popping through. They have not bloomed yet, but I have a bunch of those. My hollyhock plant is getting big. I have indigo dye plants in my garden this year, which are still only like this big, but they're getting bigger. And I'm super excited to start taking things out of the garden to start dyeing with and get some new colors on some yarn and in my shop. So yay! My garden is getting big and full, and my cucumbers are taking over the garden like always. And my peas are the best peas I've ever grown in all the years I've done a garden, and I have so many coming off of them that we're making meals with all the peas in there. And so yeah, I love my garden. I love sitting out in my garden. I love working in it. But yeah, that's some of the things going on. So let's talk a little bit about the shop here. My Etsy shop is Pot of Coffee Knits, and it's capital P, capital O, capital C if you're trying to search for me, or else there's a link in my Instagram page in the profile. But some of the yarns that'll be, and they're updating, is some of these dandelion dyed, all of these red onion skin dyed yarns, and then all the things that are already in there, all the other yarns that are in there. I am super appreciative of the Woolen Homestead for her shout out to me, and I sent her some yarn to use as a prize in one of her knit-alongs, and so she's going to be using that in one of her knit-alongs. So she gave me a shout out on one of her podcasts, and said some really nice things about my yarn her and her husband did, and that helped boost some of my sales, so thank you for that, Tiffany and Ethan. But I have all my yarn currently marked down because it's been sitting there for a little bit, and I want people to enjoy it, and so it's all marked down right now, so that I can add more, because I don't want to add a lot more until some of the current stuff is sold, because I don't want things to just kind of be sitting out there. I kind of want it moving. I don't want to have a bunch of product in my house at one time. Some of the other things that I currently have in my shop is I still have some of these cute little accessory bags that I made, little patchwork ones, in the shop, and some different things, but go check it out. Make sure that if you like or if you purchase anything from me, I would really appreciate if you left a review on my Etsy page, because leaving reviews helps people to see that I provide good customer service and that they're happy with my product. So yeah, if you've bought anything from me on my Etsy shop, I would really appreciate if you'd go leave me a little review and let people know what your experience was or how the product turned out for you, and that would be great. But yeah, go like my shop, and I'm actually today starting a new batch of madder root dye, and so I'm going to experiment with some speckling with it this time. So if you ever want to see any more of my pictures or things up to date more frequently than my podcasts, you can always follow me on my Instagram, Pot of Coffee Knits, and I try to post pictures of things in my stories and in my feed of what I'm doing at that time. And so I will usually have a little more up-to-date pictures of the dyes I'm making and the yarns that I'm doing, making, and projects I'm working on and stuff like that. So that will keep you a little more up-to-date if you want to follow me there and check out some of that stuff. But yeah, always feel free to message me or to leave a review or leave your comments and let me know what you're working on. I always like to see what other people are working on, especially if you're a natural dyer. I would love to know some of your processes and some of the things you're doing, and reach out to me so I can find you on podcasts or Instagram or whatever, and because I love learning through other people too. So thanks for joining me today, and it's not a super long podcast, but I hope you enjoyed today and are enjoying your summertime and warm weather, and I will see you very soon.